All right, guys, Paul McClain here. Welcome to the Monday Morning Wake Up Podcast. And I'm excited that you joined today. Every single week, I sit back and I think, who can we have that's going to best serve you guys? And that way you can go out there and make this week better than last week. And this week, I sat back and thought, man, we need to really get some great content, some value to you with Telesales. The company's been moving in that direction. I mean, you look at the growth, we've seen significant growth. And I get a privilege to see at a high level all these different groups and organizations that are having great growth. And there's really not many that are growing like Bree's growing. Her organization has taken off. Every week there's growth in the leaderboard, and the telesales part has been like just nonstop for you guys. I know that that's your main focus. And so, guys, I'm telling you, if you don't have a pen and a piece of paper, if you don't have an iPad or something to take notes, get up. This is your opportunity to get something to write with, because this is going to be a podcast where it's going to be very practical. You're going to be able to leave and put in place some things that will build your skill set with the very thing that's really working at a high level. Telesales, guys, has been something that has taken Family First Life, taken the insurance industry and leveled it up to a whole new level. And so, guys, I just want you to lean in. And Bree, I'm excited to have you on. Welcome to the podcast. And Bree, I want to make sure that people know, like, when I say at a high level, what that means, because it's speculative, right? It's all relative. So you really are crushing it. What is your team doing right now a month? How many families are you guys helping each month?
We did 695 families last month.
I mean, think about that. That's a lot of families served. That is phenomenal. Now, of that, how many were served with a one-call close?
Oh, I would say probably 90%.
So 90%. So most of the business, most of your agents are getting leads, calling these families, and they're closing over the phone, right?
Correct.
What about yourself? How many families are you serving each month with one call telesales?
30 to 40 families every month.
Okay, I love that. So leading by example, and we're going to really kind of unpack some of the ways that you do that as a team as well, where you get together as a team and you work together. Because I remember being in the field, it's 15 years ago. I've been doing this forever, and just wanting to help as many agents as I could, but I could only take one agent in my car at a time. And if the person lives in a different state, it's like, how do I can't really field train that person. And so we didn't do a lot of that. But now for everybody that's joining the industry, they can hop on a Zoom and watch you really help a family. They can see what you do, how you do it, how you handle yourself, how you hold yourself with professionalism, how you overcome objections, the words that you use, the phrases that you use. They can see all that, which is such a big advantage to replicating and duplicating yourself with people that are stepping in saying, man, I want to be successful, but can you show me the way forward, right? And I think that's such a big deal. Let's start with kind of the basics. I know everybody on here is probably wondering, first of all, they're saying, well, how do I learn how to go out there and help these families? Like, what does my schedule look like? What's my lead strategy? Let's start there. Schedule and lead strategy. What does that look like for you, Bree? And also for the agents that are joining the team, that you're given this roadmap, what's the schedule, the structure, and the lead strategy that you put out there for them?
Absolutely. So working 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday, every day looks the exact same, honestly, for me. Starting my day by 8 a.m. every single day. So starting at 8 a.m. means everything's ready to go, and I'm honestly sitting on Zoom around 7:30, 7:45. With leads, I kind of do things a little bit differently. I'm buying leads twice a week, but also sometimes every day. I just like to pick up extra leads. I'm not spending any more than I feel like the average person does. Personally, I'm spending around $1,500 a week on leads. So I like to work being virtual, different time zones and different lead types. But every day, my schedule is the same. Starting 8 a.m., I'm dialing until about noon, take lunch break, come back, dialing 1 until 7 o'clock.
So 8 to noon, lunch break, and then 1 to 7 o'clock?
Yes.
And you said that's how many days a week?
6 days a week.
6 days a week. Okay. And now you're doing this on a Zoom where your team is able to hop on and kind of dial and work with you?
Correct. Yeah, we're all on Zoom. So everyone, it gets on there 8 a.m. We're all unmuted. We're dialing. When people are on presentations, they're sharing their screen. That way the new agent can be able to see what they're doing and how they navigate an application.
I love that. Now lead strategy wise, are you getting like the real-time campaign leads, instant leads, mortgage leads, final expense? What's kind of the lead mix? Does it matter? What does it look like? What are you spending each week? Can you kind of go into that?
Absolutely. I feel like I've tried everything, all the lead types that FFL has to offer. Personally, I love the CRM instance and instance with beneficiary, like my bread and butter. That's personally all I buy. And then also mortgage 1 to 3 month, the images or the mortgage with images. Those are the leads that I like to buy. I'm buying usually Mondays and Thursdays. And then also, like I said, sometimes daily as well, spending around $1,500 a week on leads.
Bree, do you think that, have you seen agents on your team where some love like this one lead type and then they kind of like don't really like the other, and then another person is completely opposite?
Yes.
Have you witnessed that?
Oh yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I have people who love 1 and 3 months olds, and I don't touch them personally, but like that works for them. And so I'm just like, whatever works for you, like keep going with it, I guess.
What I think, this is kind of how I feel about it is when you go out and get your first batch of leads, a lot of times we'll make kind of like this predetermination of the lead type being this way based off of that short series of outcomes. So if I get 30 instant leads and my first 7 phone calls are like, I hate you, don't call me, or whatever. I get emotionally abused. I'm like, these leads are the devil. Like, they're terrible. Yeah. And then now, because I think that, I go out there and I communicate in such a way to really continuously just get that behavior or that result that's validating the verdict I've come to, which is these leads ain't any good. And so I think for everybody on here, you've got to kind of, ask yourself, what are you convincing yourself of? And does that what you're convinced of, does it lead you to success or to failure? Because now, I guess it's not as important as it used to be, but for me, Bree, in the beginning of this business, when I stepped into the industry, sometimes we only had one lead type and we didn't have the benefit of just buying leads in Michigan or whatever, a lead type that we wanted. We had to work with what was in our area. And I remember getting leads that said like Social Security, free benefits. The client I would call, they didn't even know it was life insurance, and they were literally looking for like something free. And I had to navigate through that. But I always convinced myself that every family I call, they either have life insurance, and if they do, I could probably give them a better plan because we have so many options and varieties to really best serve this family. And if they don't, it's the most important thing they could ever get. And so because I had that belief, I never bought into a lie of a lead type. And I would just encourage everybody watching this today, if you've sold yourself that this lead is this way, I wonder if it's just because you had one sequence of outcomes and now you've come to this verdict and you just go to the, finding that, you just find evidence to support the verdict, and it's messing you up. And so I love how you take all these different lead types. What do you think the average top producer on your team, what are they investing a week? What do you think the average would be?
$1,500 to $2,000 a week on leads.
Okay. And then they're doing the same kind of schedule, 6 days a week. Mm-hmm. The same kind of, that's what the top producers are typically following.
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that the person that's not in the top 20% of your organization, that they might be doing all the things right, but they might not be just investing the right amount of leads and they're not following the schedule, and that's what's holding them back from a top producer, and that's simply it?
Yeah, just those two things. Yeah, I've had a lot of conversations with new agents, and it usually comes down to they're only spending $400 or $500 a week on leads, and then they're not dialing the amount of times they should be.
Bree, what do you think typically, like what do you think changes where the person goes from investing, say, $700 a week in leads, and they know, like they've heard you, you're on the calls, you're like, you got to do $1,500 to $2,000 if you want to be a top producer, and all of a sudden they finally change that and they call you up like, Bree, I've got to figure it out. Like I got to figure it out. I'm now helping 10 families a week, and they finally change the leads. It's like they've heard it for so many times, but they finally make the change. Like what takes place, do you think, that gets them to actually make that change? They know it, but what causes them to do it? What do you think happens?
I feel like it's just a light bulb. Like people are going to be here, they're showing up no matter what, so that you're putting yourself in a position to either be successful, and spend that $1,500 a week on leads, or you're going to be, dialing those 50 leads you bought with $400, and you're going to sit there, banging your head against the table. So I feel like finally, once people are like, okay, I'm going to put it on the credit card, I'm going to do whatever just to spend, like she said, $1,500 a week on leads and see what happens, and then it always turns around on their side.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. I really do. I think that for everybody on here, if you've heard that and you're not doing it, I think sometimes we hear it and we say, well, yeah, but not for me yet, because I'm not in a position to do that. Like I don't have the 2,000, or they put these conditions that keep them from thinking it's applicable to them. I would just encourage you, like typically when you make that change, it's because it finally hurts so bad. You're like so sick and tired of beating your head against the wall, like you said, Bree, where they're just like, this sucks. Like, I got to do something different. Or they've heard it so many times that they just start to believe that that's the thought process they should have, not the one they currently have, because they've heard it so repeatedly. I would just encourage you guys, don't wait for those two things to happen. Just make the decision now. Commit to saying today, this week, it'll be the first week I'm going to actually double my lead flow and just see what happens. I promise you, like that's the biggest thing I hear over 15 years of agents that all of a sudden have these breakthrough moments is they simply finally choose to invest more in resources and then commit to the schedule. So I love that. Bree, kind of walk through your one call close. Let's make it, really kind of practical. Like, as if you're calling me, go through kind of like what you say, what you go through. Is there, for a new agent, is there something that they have in front of them, like a script that gives them the roadmap of what to say, how to say it? Kind of go through some of that stuff for everybody watching.
Absolutely. Yeah, we do have scripts for our new agents. And honestly, like I did my first 7 months in home, so it's identical to basically what I did in home. So are you want me to role play or just kind of breeze through it?
Yeah, let's do like a role play. And then guys, we're going to put, Bree, if you can shoot me the script, we'll put this in the, what is it called, Casey? The description? The description at the bottom so you guys can click it and see the script that Bree uses, because there's no question, there's a lot of scripts out there, but Bree's group's doing, helping 700 families a month pretty quick. Like Bree, how long have you been with Family First Life?
A year and a half.
I mean, that's crazy. I mean, like you're literally in the top 1% of a $1 trillion industry, Bree. Like, and I know that sometimes it's easy to lose track of that because of the amount of volume that FFL does. But like what you've done, Bree, is incredible. It really is. And you're changing a lot of families' lives, the clients you sit with or talk to, and also these agents. I mean, what you're doing is a big deal. And I want everybody to understand that. All right, Bree, let's do that. Let's do a quick role play and go through it.
So ring, ring, ring.
Hello?
Hi, is this Paul?
Yeah, this is Paul.
Hi, Paul. My name's Bree. I'm just reaching out to you from the Benefits Center here in Arizona. We received the request you filled out looking for some information on life insurance. You put your beneficiary down as Ashley. Is that correct?
Yes.
Alrighty. And then we got your date of birth as 9/17/56. Is that correct as well?
Yes.
Perfect, Paul. Now, when you filled this out, were you looking for coverage on just yourself or your spouse as well?
For both of us.
For both of you? Okay, awesome. So they really simplified the process. Just takes about 5 to 10 minutes. Paul, are you and your wife available right now?
You know what? I am. My wife's not. She's at the grocery store.
Okay, not a problem. I can go ahead and just run over this with you. Do you have a pen and paper available?
Yes. Now, Bree, real quick, do you go through it just with me if the spouse isn't available, or do you reschedule where they're both available?
No, with one call closes, if one's available, I'm just going to run it.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's go that way then.
All right. So, Paul, let me know once you're ready with that pen and paper.
Okay, I'm ready.
Perfect. So I'm just going to have you write down my name and my license number. You can use this to look me up for any reason if you need to. So Paul, my name is Bree, B-R-I-E, last name Harrison, and then my license number 123456. Did you get that down?
Yes.
Perfect. And then can you read me back my license number just so I can make sure?
Yeah, it's 123456.
Perfect. There you go. So Paul, when you filled this out, were you looking for coverage mainly on yourself Paul, when you filled this out, were you looking mainly to cover your funeral and final expenses, leave money behind? What was kind of your main goal?
Mainly to make sure, if I die, that the burial expenses are covered, and there'd be something in place to help replace the income that would be lost when I die.
Absolutely. All right. So, Paul, again, my name is Bree. I'm a broker through the state. So what that means is I work with about 30 different insurance companies. So that just allows me to shop around for you. Now, I'm not the sales agent. I'm on the medical side of things. So what I'm going to do is just ask you a couple of questions that will give me a good idea of which companies might accept you. I'll be able to show you some different options. And then we just submit a request for coverage just to make sure you could get approved. However, there's no payments or commitments made today. We got to make sure you can get qualified first. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. And then from there, I'll just go into a financial inventory sheet.
Okay, so I love that. So the one thing that I think stood out to me, Bree, was for one, like you were just very confident and fluid as you went through it. The stuff you're saying that's on a script, right?
Correct.
And so for everybody that's like, man, I want to sound a little bit more fluid. Like you can like read this script 1,000 times, like, at night, early in the morning. I remember reading the script into my phone and then listening to it back when I was driving to the gym or I was just trying to internalize it. And I always think it's interesting, Brie, like I've listened to and coached a lot of agents over the, last 15 years. I mean, thousands of agents. And when I hear their phone script, I'm always like, why does it suck so bad? I'm like, why is this so terrible? Like they won't know the words. And the reason why I say that is, if you're in college and you take an oral communication, class, you have to learn like how to memorize like a 5-minute presentation. And I remember being in college and watching this one lady, girl that got up to give a presentation and she got so nervous that she went in the corner and like started crying. Like she put herself in timeout. Like she put her nose on the wall. I was like, that's terrifying. And I had never spoken in front of people at that time yet. I was 18. It was right before I got my license. And I was thinking like, I'm not going to do that. And so I remember staying up late that night and studying for like 4 or 5 hours, making sure I had that down. The next day I was able to go out and say it word for word, because I was terrified of like, I was like, is that how people respond if they're not prepared, But I think a lot of people on here, if you would just study this, like this is the answer, right? Like this is the answer to, the test that's going to lead you to financial freedom. And if you had that, would you just kind of like look at it or would you internalize it? And so I think for everybody on here, like, Bree, there's no question that you internalize the script. You could probably say it in your sleep. It's not in front of you just because you've done it so many times. And I think everybody can do that and it'll help build their skill. I loved how you said the medical side of it. You said something like, I'm not a sales rep. I'm on the medical side of it, right?
Yes.
And I think that just differentiates you between the person in their mind where they're saying like, is this person just trying to sell me something? Do I need to have my guard up? Do I need to have this block wall up between me and them that keeps me kind of, guarded to not make the wrong decision or not to get sold or manipulated? And that tears down that wall where they're like, okay, Bree's on my side of the table. She's got my shoes on. She's going to help me buy. She's going to help me get qualified. I know I need this and I don't have to worry about her selling me. She's just going to try to help aid me along and guide me, because people love to buy, they hate to be sold. And so I think that phrase, it helps you get the person thinking, I'm not going to be sold, but I'm going to be aided in my buying decision. And so I think that's a great way to kind of position it. The financial inventory, Bree, can you kind of go through that as well? Like, so you've gone up to the financial inventory. Now kind of take it from there and kind of go through the questions you ask, because I think it's important. I think so, Bree, this is, and I might be wrong because I don't have an extensive background with the telesales side of it, but in the face-to-face sales, I realize that most agents that struggle and have a lower close ratio, they don't build up a good why, and then they don't ask the pointed questions that get the client really living in the picture that the financial inventory paints. They don't ask the questions of, when you pass away, what does that look like? I think on the telesales side, it's even easier for an agent to kind of like overstep that and just kind of like try to get right to the numbers and miss the whole value and the hot button and what gets them to move to purchase. So I want to have you kind of go through that, because my guess is that you do a good job in asking the financial inventory questions and that you ask the questions that get them emotional about it still. So can you kind of go through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the financial inventory sheet, I ask everything from top to bottom. And then it's not on there, but yeah, I will ask. So like, Paul, if something happened to you tomorrow, what does that look like for your wife? What does that look like for your family? And I'm going to dig into, do they have anything in place? Do they have, if they currently have life insurance, isn't sufficient for what they're, wanting, if he's wanting to leave behind money for his family for income replacement, or if he wants to be buried, if he's got kids he wants to send to college. So that's what I'm going to be asking, what they have. And a lot of the times it's nothing. So then that makes my job really easy to be like, okay, let's look at what you can afford and then show options that are going to benefit you all in one policy.
Okay. So you go through all the questions like my health, life insurance I currently have in place, anything I have in place that would act like life insurance, right? Or to help take care of things. And then once you go through that, what are some of the questions that you said you kind of get me? If you can kind of role play, you've got my situation. What questions do you ask me again as far as what would happen if I died, or, kind of go through that real quick.
Yeah. So Paul, let me ask you, if something happened to you tomorrow, what does that look like for your wife and your family? What do you have in place?
Well, right now we really don't have anything in place. It would be tough for my wife to take care of the bills and the expenses for sure.
Okay. And then same thing for your wife. Does she have anything in place for you if something were to happen to her?
No, nothing in place.
No. Okay. And then how many kids again do you have?
5.
5 kids. Awesome. How old are they?
So are we pretending I'm old or young?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Okay. All right. So I have a 15-year-old, I have a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
Okay, awesome. So personally, I like to be very personable with my clients. I'm going to stick to asking them the questions I need to, but also letting them know you're a real person. So, you can ask them, and these things will help later on as well. So currently, Paul, you don't have anything in place. You've got a lovely wife and kids. So my job is just going to see what we can help put in place for you that we can see if we can get you qualified for. That way, God forbid, when something happens to you, Paul, your family's set up with sufficient coverage to take care of things once you're not there. Okay.
Okay.
And then from there, I'll just go into quoting, and then that's when I'll explain the product and go over. I show 3 different options every time.
I love that. So you still go through and ask those great questions, and then also along the way, you're asking questions that also build rapport and connect with the client. And I think that's something that it could probably be overlooked and missed. So my guess is if somebody's not helping, the same amount of families that another person's helping, like if their close ratio is 40%, somebody's 80, my guess is that you're probably not asking these rapport building questions while you're going through it, right? What are the ages of the kids? Okay, that's great. You still want to be a human and connect with them just as if you would face to face. And then make sure you ask those pointed questions that actually build the why and the emotion. So I love that. Now you show the different options. What's your close when you show the options? So if you can actually go through how you show an option, if you give me just a hypothetical, this is the death benefit, the premium, the coverage, and then kind of what your closing, question is to move into the next phase of the application.
Absolutely. So I'll always first build value and talk about the product. So for example, if it's going to be a whole life product, I'm going to say, Paul, I'm going to have you write down gold, silver, and bronze. Those are going to be the 3 different options we're looking at today. First, the company I'd be trying to get you approved for is called Americo. Have you heard of them before?
No, I haven't.
All right. So they're going to be an A+ rated insurance company. They offer living benefits. So what that means is if you were to become critically, chronically, terminally ill, Paul, something happened to you while you're living and you needed access to some of the benefit amount, you're able to take from it. Now, this is going to be a whole life policy. Are you familiar with those?
I'm not really, no.
Okay, so a whole life policy is going to cover you for your entire life. That coverage is never going to expire. That price is never going to change. Now, with this kind of a policy, it's also going to build a cash value. It has accidental included. And most importantly, it's immediate coverage. So what that means is after your first payment's made into it, you're insured for that full amount. There's no waiting period. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great.
All right. So did you get down gold, silver, and bronze?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So the gold program, that's going to be for $40,000 of coverage. Let me know once you have that down.
Okay.
The silver program, that's going to be for $35,000 of coverage.
Okay.
And then for the bronze program, that's going to be for $15,000 of coverage.
Okay, perfect.
And then I'll go over the prices with them. And then, so Paul, looking at these different options, which one would make the most sense for you and your family that you'd want to see if you could try to get qualified for?
I'd probably say the silver.
The silver option. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I typically recommend. So what we're going to do now is just submit a quick application just to see if you could get approved for the coverage. And then what happens then is the insurance company will mail you everything out if you are approved for you to then review and look over. If you're declined, we'll just look at a different company, okay?
Okay.
All right. And then I'll just go straight into an application. Obviously, those quotes didn't go with what we were talking about in the financial inventory sheet, but that's just kind of how I do things.
Okay. I love that. I think that's a great way to transition in. Now, when you're going through the application now, like say you're writing, like who do you typically write on a telesales?
America.
What carrier? America. Okay. So you have everything pulled up. You're on the America website. You go through all the questions with them. You're doing an e-signature.
Correct.
Okay. So they'll get the email. They sign it all. You go through the whole process. What are some of the things that you say at the end? So once the application is completed, banking information, everything's put in place. What do you kind of say as you wrap up the conversation?
First, I'll reiterate everything. So I'll make sure, hey, Paul, do you still have that pen and paper nearby?
Yes.
So I just want to make sure you have all this information down. That way, you know what you have, why everything's being mailed out to you. So the company we're submitting a request for coverage through, that's going to be Americo. And then your coverage amount is going to be the silver program for $35,000 of coverage for this much a month. Your effective date is going to be December 1st. So make sure you have that $100 every single month on the 1st, because that's when this policy is going to come out. And then again, this is going to be one of your most important expenses moving forward, Paul. This isn't like your Verizon bill. When something happens to you, Verizon's not going to pay your family $35,000. So make sure you have the money in there on the 1st every single month. I'm going to be your agent moving forward. So if you need anything whatsoever, I'm going to give you my personal number. That way you can reach out to me. Do you have any questions? Do you understand everything that we went over today?
No, it all makes sense. Thank you.
That's basically how I leave things.
I love it. I love the way you wrap it up too. And I think that's important is to give the perspective of this policy, this expense compared to all the other things that'll come out of their bank account, because as the weeks go on, the emotion, the picture that's painted with the financial inventory and all the questions that you ask to paint the picture, the emotion starts to leave, and they stop thinking about, what if I don't come home tomorrow? They stop thinking about the fact that if I don't wake up, my family's going to be in a financial disarray. They don't think about that, right? Because you're not asking those questions, and all they see is an expense. So if you can tie that expense to something else, like, hey, this isn't like your Verizon bill, where when you pass away, they're not going to pay you $35,000. That's going to ensure your family doesn't go through that financial hardship and struggle that we kind of talked about. Just remember that, because this is the most important thing. And I think that's so essential, guys, to help build up your persistency, where the clients will keep the policy at the very end. I think for me, Bree, before it was like, man, I made the sale. Like, dude, I'm gone. Like, I'm just excited. I want to go celebrate. Like, I closed one. And what I realized is that, no, I need to slow down and really strengthen that sell and talk to them about, I would even tell a story. I'd say, Bree, listen, I just want you to realize that there's going to be things that'll come up over the next, it could be the next month. It could be the next 6 years. Maybe it's 10 years from now, where things happen, life takes place, new expenses pop up. And I just want you to remember how important this is. I mean, I'm very, clear on it as we went through the questions, and I see your situation. I've done this a long time, but I just want to make sure that you remember that, because the worst thing that I've ever had happen, and I've had it happen a couple times, we're really good at it, so it happens, I think, less than it does with any other kind of company, but is when somebody reaches out to me and they say, Paul, my husband's gone, and they're in such an emotional wreck where I could barely understand them, and we go to pull the policy up, and the policy that was in place for the last 4 years, it just stopped 3 months prior, because they called in because some bill popped up, and they instead of figuring it out or letting go of some of their expense, they got rid of this. And now that family, where all the hope that they had and that peace of mind that they had is, as much as this hurts, at least I'm going to be okay. At least I can cover expenses. That's now gone. And that's the worst thing that I have to endure as a field underwriter. And so I just want to make sure that you remember that there's things that'll come up, but always make sure that this is first and foremost in place, because this protects the livelihood of your family. And I would say that, and I would see them kind of, react, where they're like, wow, he's right. Like, this is a big deal. And it's one of those things where you don't see the profit and the income directly tied to that extra effort of doing that. But I promise you, if you look at, 6 months down the road, your persistency, your numbers are going to be higher by just that little story that you tell at the very end. Because when they go and have that thought pop in like, man, it's tight. Maybe I should get rid of that because all I can see is $200 a month. I don't see the value of it right now because it's not being communicated. That story pops up and now they decide, you know what, I need to make sure this is in place. And so I think that's such a great way to do it. Bree, what are some of the main objections that you get in telesales? Like what would be the top 3 objections that you get?
So before we get into the application, them wanting to think about it once you show them quotes. And when that happens, I'm just like, I totally understand you want to think about it, Paul. However, so does the insurance company. We just don't even know if you're approved. So what we'll do is just submit an application just to make sure you're approved, because if you're not approved, then there's nothing really to think about, okay? And then I'll just go straight into the application. Social and banking, those are the 2 other biggest objection with telesales. I feel like I didn't get that when I was in home because you're sitting face to face, but doing things over the phone, you're going to get a little bit more pushback with your clients. So obviously that's why you give them your license number at the beginning to help build that report that you are a licensed agent. And then with the social objection, the way you ask it, I feel like matters. So when I'm asking, Paul, do you have your social memorized?
Yes.
Perfect. Go ahead.
Got it.
So that's
yeah, that's good.
That's just how because everybody has their social memorized. And if they don't, I'm like, you don't have your social memorized? Well, I do. I just don't feel comfortable. Okay. And then I'll handle that objection with, a lot of the time it's just like, do you need my social? Yeah. So that's how they look into your medical records to make sure you're healthy enough to qualify. And then when you're ready, and go straight through that. With the banking, I feel like I do this one a little bit differently as well. So with the bank information, I'll just be like, Paul, who do you bank with?
I bank with Chase.
Chase. Okay, perfect. So it looks like we do partner with Chase. I have the routing number pulled up. Paul, do you have something you can verify this with, such as a blank check?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to read off the routing number. Just let me know if this matches with what you have on your end. So at this time, like I'm Googling Chase routing number in California. That way I have that and then read it off 99% of the time that number is correct. So then it's like, there's no hesitation. I'm not like, hey, what's your account and routing number? Where I feel like that was giving more people were like, wait, what? Where now I'm like, okay, I have the routing number. I just need you to verify what I have. Okay. And then your account number. And then it's just like smooth. Like they already have that check in front of them.
Now, do they typically, like if you say, do you have a check in front of you, do they say, no, I got to go get it? And you say, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
And they just go get it. Okay. And so that's a great transition. And I think that also is a transition which will help agents be more confident when they're doing it. Right.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, when you get the pushback on something like that, it's because of the way you're saying it. Like you're already going into it thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get an objection here. Like I remember when I used to, when I was dialing and booking appointments, my first like week in the field on the phones, I got every client was like, can I just get a quote? And I was like, what the heck? And I was trying to overcome it. I was going through all these objection handling. And what I found out was I kept getting it because I expected it. You know what I mean? Like I literally was saying things in such a way that was getting them to say that to me. And it wasn't until I changed my expectation that I started to change, the outcome I was receiving. And so I think that this will help everybody, that transition. It'll give you some confidence. I know you shouldn't get that pushback because it's just fluid. It's just a natural progression. Okay, great. Verified it. Okay, perfect. And what's the account information? So that way they know the premium where it's coming out of, and they give you that and you move forward. So I love that. Any other objections that you typically get with the telesales?
Honestly, no. It's just, that doing things over the phone, there's going to be sometimes where I will walk people how to look up my license, just because they're like, well, you just called me, and I'm giving you all my information. And I'm like, yeah. So, I give you my license number. So let's, I'll walk you through to look me up. But other than that, honestly, no. Okay.
So in the beginning, do you send them anything like via text message or what have you? Or you just give them the license number to write down?
No, just a license number. And then if they're, we get to that point where they're like, want to look me up, then I'll send them a link. That way they don't have to like find it themselves.
Okay, perfect. What about expectations? So Bree, I think a lot of times an agent gets frustrated because their expectations off. Like they don't think they're doing very well, but in fact they're doing the way they should be doing it, but they have the wrong expectation. They think that they're going to make 2 sales every 30 minutes, right? Like what do you see in a given day? Like what is the right expectation for an agent that says, okay, today is Monday, I'm doing telesales, I went on and I bought $400 in leads for today. What are they going to see? What should they expect?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I like to let new agents know, like, you can't compare your chapter 1 to my chapter 30. I've been doing this a long time. I can overcome some objections that you may not have even heard before. So, I mean, we're on Zoom, we're unmuted. So they're hearing me get bodied on the phones too while I'm dialing, which I feel like is huge because they're like, oh, you're getting that objection too. It's not just me. Just in general, when you're trying to get onto a presentation. And then my goal, I feel like for telesales is a sale a day, like minimum, a sale a day. Personally, I like to do 10 families a week, so I can average that doing a sale a day. Some days, you're closing 4, some days you're closing 0, but I always look at dial activity. So when I have a new agent who's frustrated and then is like, I haven't got anybody on the phones today, I've been dialing all day. I'm like, okay, send me your dial sheet. You did 300 dials. Well, that's why you haven't put in enough activity to see any results. So you should be dialing 500, 600, 700, 800, 900 dials a day in order to get on a presentation and close.
And what are you guys using to make that many phone calls in a day?
Phone burner.
Okay. So phone burner is that's the tool that really helps you go from just a couple hundred dials to 600, 700. So one sell a day is kind of the goal. And I think that should be like almost liberating for everybody watching this. Like for me, when you say that, I'm like, that would give me hope because it'd be easy to spend. And I know how you could spend 4 or 5 hours and not seeing results in that and you get discouraged. But if like that's just a part of the numbers, then what does it matter? If you know that when you're going to play baseball, that you're going to strike out, 70% of the time, but if you can just hit the ball 3 to 10 times, you're going to be 4 to 10 times, like you're the best in the world, right? But that's just a part of the process. If you got so hung up on the 6 strikeouts, you forget the fact that you're one of the best in the world and you start to get in your own mind, and that causes you to have less of a result and really almost probably, leave the industry or business because you think that you suck. It's like, no, you just go through the numbers, keep going. So how many people in a dial day, if I make one sale a day, which is kind of like what we're hoping for, right? That'd be like, let's go, if there's one day it's 0, one day there's 3, law of large numbers will work out. But if it's just one a day, how many do I get a hold of? Like how many people am I talking to in that day?
It depends. Honestly, I feel like telesales, there's days where I'll barely have anybody who I talk to. I track mine because I put my leads, for example, that I buy, I have 100 in my phone burner. So I'll dial through those and then I go back to my previous leads that I bought as well, just because I feel like you never fully exhaust your leads when you're doing telesales. So I'm constantly dialing through my old leads and then back to my new ones circling around. So I would say you could, for 100 batch of leads, if you're double, triple dialing those, I would say you'd speak to about 20 of them on a good day.
So speak to 20 and you'll end up doing how many presentations on the 20 where you actually kind of get through the beginning and start getting into, more of the presentation?
I would say, if I, for example, just one batch of leads, I'm double dialing these. I speak to, 20 of them. 5, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. So
it's just if they're available, you're running it. A lot of the times you're going to have people who are like, I'm at the grocery store, I'm here, and you're setting callbacks, but I don't consider those appointments. If you're sitting down and getting someone to grab a pen and paper, majority of the time you're going to be closing those people.
Okay. So if they sit down and you're going to go through the presentation, what's the close ratio on that for a new agent, for somebody just getting started?
I would say 80%.
Really? Okay. And then so of the other ones, either those are going to be callbacks and what's the percentage if you say, hey, they're at the grocery store, whatever, you're going to call them back later that day or tomorrow. What's the pickup ratio on that situation?
I would say 50%.
Okay.
I just don't like people to be like, oh, I have a set appointment at 6:00. He told me to call him back when he's off work. Cause they're not 50% of the time they're going to pick up. With those leads, it's okay, they talk to you, they're interested. So now it's just keeping them in your lead batch and continuing to call them until they pick up. You'll see if you look at my phone burner, there's leads I call people 12 times. They didn't pick up. And on that 13th time they picked up, they're interested in a closed deal. So it's just getting a hold of these people at the right time.
I love that. So each day, is it fair to say if somebody's investing $300 to $400 a day, that's probably the right amount because I'd give them about $1,500 to $2,000 a week in leads?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Well, Bree, I'll tell you what, this has been so helpful, I think, for anybody that's stepping in and doing telesales. This is a system, guys, that works. You know what I mean? Like Bree, you've duplicated what you're doing to so many people and there's so many agents. Like, how many agents do you have on your team that are helping 20 families a month?
We've definitely got about, I would say, 20.
20. So there's 20 different agents that are helping 20 plus families a month. And so that's proof of concept. So for anybody that's like, man, I want a roadmap to go out there and be successful as a telesales producer, guys, this is it. Like, this is like, I want to go out, Bree, if and start doing telesales. Like, this is exciting, right? And where else can you go out there and spend a day, like at your house or office, wherever you're dialing, and do that from like your house, do that from your office? Like, where else can you make that kind of money and help that many families? Like, there's nothing like this, right? And I think that's probably half of it too, is not losing perspective on how great that is, because I believe that anything that you start to underappreciate, it starts to leave you, and I think that if you're so hung up on like, man, I dialed all day and only got hold of so many people and I didn't close anything today, it's like, okay, who cares? It's a law of large numbers, and numbers don't lie. You can't beat them and they can't beat you. So if you just stay consistent and persistent through each day, the regimen and routine that you put in place, like, it's going to show itself as fruitful if you don't get too high or low and you just enjoy every day. And I don't know how you can, but you can. And if you do, it's going to steal it from you, and you're going to go work in some dead-end 9-to-5 job with, not making the money that you can make in here. And so I love how you broke it all down. Any last-minute tips as you wrap up for anybody that's watching this today that they can take and put into practice this week?
I would just say for new agents, like, it's a race to 100 presentations. When I first started, I wasn't doing 30, 40 families a month. I was doing 8, 10, 12. I was trying to figure out kind of what worked for me and a schedule and a structure that I could follow and be consistent in, to where I'm now successful doing so. So I would just say, buy leads, unmute, get uncomfortable, dial the phones, and you'll be able to see the results.
I love it. Well, Bree, thank you so much for joining today, guys. If this has served you well, which I believe it has, make sure to like, subscribe, share this. There's somebody maybe on your team that they're kind of struggling, and there's something that Bree's going to say today that they hear, and it's going to allow them to lift the lid and go out there and execute and start getting the results that they want to have for themselves and their family and their business. And so share this, comment below. Also, we've got the lead drawing that's getting ready to take place. And so put yourself in the drawing for that. I know Casey, is it four winners? 4 winners every single week that get to win lead money that you can go out there and feed your business and give yourself a best shot to level up your week, which is our goal and desire. So, Bree, thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining today and serving the team here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Hey, make it a massive week. Be strong. Stay steadfast, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
What's going on, guys? You know what time it is. It is time to give away 4 lucky people $250 worth of lead credit. If you commented on last week's video, which is playing right over here, you're automatically entered to win $250 worth of lead credit. So comment on this video right now so you're entered to win for next week. Without further ado, let's see who our first winner is. Edwin Barranco. Thanks for the constant content on making us a little bit better each week. Our second winner is Dev1234. I'm from the Midwest, but I make sure I'm on here on Mondays. Our third winner is Esteban Mata. Great podcast, definitely learned a thing or two. And our fourth and final winner for today is Stacy Crawford. Thank you, always great info. Guys, it's that simple. Just leave a comment letting us know how you like the podcast, and you could win $250 worth of lead credit to grow your business and make a difference in people's lives. Make it a great week, guys. We'll see you next Monday. Take care.